We have a lot of people out amongst all the level 1 classes, so I want to do a little video. So smile, you're on TV.
Hi, Jonathan
Surprise.
Dyson.
Okay. So like I was saying, writing about literature is very abstract. It's not easy like writing a report. But we've done the hardest part so far, which is figuring out the whole story structure and how to explain the story. Now we're going to talk about writing introduction and conclusion. So if you look at page 46, the nice thing about this is that you can use this book review model for, you could write a movie review using the same structure. And when we get through writing our book reviews, which we'll start working on next time when you come, after you get done with that book review, one thing that's really kind of fun is to post your book review to Amazon.
Amazon or oh yeah, duh.
Amazon, yeah. So people can read about the book and see if they think they would like to read it themselves. Now, of course, what do you think you'd have to put? Because we've told everything about everything, right?
Spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
Yes. Spoiler alert.
There's like
Okay. But it's still really fun, and you can have a book review published on Amazon. Yes, John, do you have a question?
yeah, there's like 4 comments above you saying book was good, and then you with your entire essay.
Yeah. Have you actually sometimes gone on Amazon to look to
People
see what
do that.
people write down? Like you see, like it's actually kind of fun. Usually about 3 stars, people actually seem to know what they're talking about, because you have like book was somewhat good, then you have this super long thing. It's actually really interesting to read.
It is. It is. It's really fun. Some of those are really great, and others are
Just complaining.
Yeah.
Without reasons.
The worst book ever. They don't tell you why.
I bought this book. It's stalled for 200 pages.
Right.
My dog.
Okay.
And then I vent about that for 100 words.
So let's talk about how we go about writing an introduction and conclusion. In certain ways, these are very much like introductions and conclusions that you wrote for your report. And in other ways, they're very different. Okay? So let's see how we do this. We've already written the body of the paper. Now we're ready to write the introduction. So on page 46, look at the second paragraph. The introduction of the review gives the basic facts about the book. Title, author, publisher, and year of publication. The type of story, such as a fairy tale or historical fiction. And background information, such as interesting information about the author, the book, or the historical period or event. Now, please make sure that the title of the story is in your introduction. This is what I see sometimes. This story was very good. And what's your main question? Start out.
Story.
Huh?
Why did he use a banned word?
Right. So
Why is it good?
going, what story? Right? And this is why I want y'all to learn to edit your papers and other people's papers. Your mind is full of this story, and you're just thinking that everybody knows what you're talking about. So that's why people write things like, this story was very good, right?
Too much information to say.
Here in a minute. Now, I have given you, very nicely, I have given you an article about how this book came to be written, and we'll look at that in a minute. Look at the literature words on the next page, page 47. You see I have a whole bunch of words there listed under the introduction. We haven't used these words yet because last time we wrote the body paragraphs. So we've got different kinds of story words here. Now let's look at these. What kind of story do you think this is that we just learned? Tale, saga, narrative, epic, legend, mystery, tragedy, comedy, romance, novel, yarn, anecdote, or myth? What word might be the best to use for this? Do you think this is like an epic story?
I think tale or narrative would probably be the preferred choice.
Yeah, if it's yeah, I'm guessing if it's not tragedy, it's tale or narrative.
Okay, so it's definitely not an epic. What's an epic?
It's
It's the Iliad,
Okay.
basically.
like
It's an extensive work that usually encompasses like the birth of a nation or something.
Okay. I would say Lord of the Rings is an epic for one thing. But you're right. Yes, Carolina. Okay. Definitely not a novel. I've had people in here say that this is a novel.
No, you know what it is? It's a
What?
romance.
Oh. Okay, one thing I left out of here was short story. You could write short story on that list. In fact, I think I will, and I'm surprised I never have. This is definitely a short story. It's a tale. It's a short narrative at the most. Okay, short story. So you might want to circle those words that are appropriate there. I don't want anybody to bring back a paper saying that this was a novel written by Jack London. Jack London did write some novels, but this is not one of them. Okay? Got to think about the words you use. You can't just plug. This is not like writing a report. You just can't plug stuff in and then, style it up and then be done. You got to think about what you're doing. Okay. Story types. Let's see. Nature, science fiction. Hey, this is a great science fiction story.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Is it a love story?
No.
Absolutely not. Is it an adventure?
It could be like a short adventure tale.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's kind of adventurous. Historical doesn't deal with any particular known events, right? Historical events. Okay. So I wouldn't say it's a historical circle adventure though. Is this a horror story?
No.
It is. You have no idea what's lurking in the water.
It could have been, but it's not, right? It's not a folk tale. It's definitely not a fairy tale. It's not an animal tale. It's not a moral. It's not a space story. It is sort of descriptive. I guess we could say it's a descriptive adventure story,
I guess.
right? I think he does a lot of description. Okay, so circle that. That's a possibility. Now, some words meaning author. You can use writer, please. Well, you could say novelist, although this is not a novel that he wrote. You could say it was a short story written by novelist Jack London. That would be appropriate because we know he did become a novelist. Storyteller. This is not
Not essayist or biographer.
Huh?
Not an essayist or biographer.
Yeah, I don't know if he wrote any biography or not. I'm not sure, but that wouldn't be appropriate there. Okay. Now let's talk about the conclusion. First of all, let's just look at an example of an introduction. Look on page,
Excuse me.
look on page 144.
Landed right on it.
Okay, so here's the introduction that this person wrote about Bridge to Philadelphia.
I already read it.
This is kind of awkward how she starts out. I don't really like it. I think I would just skip that awkward number 3 that she has there at the beginning. Bridge to Terabithia is a story that holds the reader entirely spellbound and turning pages until there are no more to turn. That's kind of an interesting way to start out. Okay. So you want to have something that catches your reader's attention, just like you do for any introduction. Why? Why do we want to catch our reader's attention?
Force them to read our article.
Yeah, we don't want our reader to be interested. We don't want to start out with something like, this was a really good story. I mean, who wants to read something that starts out like that?
Read this story, please.
Right. Okay. The author, there's your literature word there. The author of this absorbing and classic tale, she's calling it a classic tale. That's pretty good. Is Catherine Patterson, who has written and published several other books, all of which have gained awards. Now, here's some really interesting background information. On the cover of Bridge to Terabithia, there shines a sparkling gold Newbery Award medal. I like that. That's pretty descriptive. Because literary critics recognize this novel as a distinguished contribution to American literature for children. Okay, so there's a little background about the book. One thing that's not in here that I really need to go back and put in here, because it doesn't talk about who published it and when it was published. That's some information that's missing there. Yes, John.
It doesn't have all the dress ups.
I think I just unmarked them because I wanted to let the literature words stand out.
Yeah, but still, it doesn't have a number 5.
Okay.
Sentence.
Good catch, you guys. All right. Now here's some interesting background information about the author. Born in China, raised in Japan, and affected by both of these cultures, Patterson weaves her experiences into her early stories. This novel explores friendship. Okay, nice introduction. Let's look at the one on the next page. And he also does not have the publisher and the year. Y'all don't copy that. Make sure you look at the information that I gave, okay, about how to do this. I should go back and fix these. Although the book begins with a few treasure and a robust imagination, My Side of the Mountain. Notice both of them introduce the title of the book in the very first sentence. Very important, okay? My Side of the Mountain is a story of adventure and wonder that excites the reader to find out what is ahead. Jean Craighead George, who is the creator of this narrative, had a very remarkable childhood, good background information. While she lived with her family near Washington, D.C., inspiring her writings, Jean grew up in a family of naturalists. She and her siblings experienced adventures similar to those she describes in Sam's interestingly eventful story. Excitedly, she brought many interesting pets into her own children's lives because she also enjoyed unusual pets as a child. Her first pet was a turkey buzzard. Some interesting information there. According to her biography, she has written more than 60 books. It is a delightful read. Okay. It's a fine introduction, just missing the publisher and the year of publication. Okay, now let's go back and look at how we go about writing about the conclusion.
Back to page 46.
Yes. Okay, in the conclusion, you're going to analyze the book. Now, this could be very hard, but I've given you a wonderful tool, which I'll show you in just a minute. By asking the questions listed below, about the plot, theme, style, and literary devices. Look at the literature vocabulary on the next page for words to describe different responses to the plot, theme, style, and literary devices. At the end of the conclusion, you're going to say whether it's a good book or not and why. Although this will be your own opinion, we're not going to say
I, my, you.
Right. We're not going to bring ourselves into it all. We're going to say
Or.
this is an excellent story that is recommended to all readers, or something like that. Or if you really dislike it, you better give me some good reasons why. I don't want to just see a paragraph full of this was a terrible story. It was just boring. There wasn't anything interesting. Okay. I want more than that.
I can fix that. I can say because of reasons.
Okay. Claire, did you have a question? Yes.
Never mind. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay.
My brain just blanks out.
Okay. All right. We're not gonna mention ourselves. We're just gonna state it as a fact. All right. Look at page 114, and this is the worksheet you're going to use to figure out what you want to talk about in the conclusion. Okay.
114.
114. I love this tool. So this is the kind of thing I want you to think about, and then these are things you can write about in your conclusion besides just This was the worst story in the whole world. Of all the stories that have ever been written, this was the worst. I mean, seriously, one year I got a conclusion like that. No reasons, just over and over again about what a terrible story it was. So here's some ways you can think about this story. All right, is everybody on page 114?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Plot analysis. Was there any particular part of the story sequence you liked or disliked? Specifically, number one, were the characters well developed or weak? Now, this is a very short story. There's only so much character development you can do in a very short story. So keep that in mind. This is War and Peace, where you got plenty of time to develop characters, okay? This is a 4-page story. So you have to think about it in terms of a 4-page story. Did you feel like you kind of knew who Alf was? Okay. Were the characters well developed or weak? In other words, could you see the characters in your mind?
Yes.
Did they think, speak, and behave the way real people did? Or do you have a hard time imagining people thinking, speaking, or behaving the way they did?
Some of that seems like a pretty vague definition of
Well,
developed.
do you get pictures in your mind? How about this? Do you get the pictures pop into your mind of these people while you're reading? I love Pride and Prejudice,
Yes.
but I could never see Jane Austen's characters. They didn't seem real to me until I watched the 6-hour BBC production. She has a lot of really good things going for her in her writing, but helping you see the characters is not one of them. Okay. Were the characters liked? Why or why not? List positive qualities and negative qualities right here on the sheet.
I missed that first part.
Or no. Negative qualities, positive qualities. Did the characters grow or change during the story? If so, positive or negative. Do you think Alf grew in this story in his character?
No.
No.
Think
No.
he learned anything?
Static character.
You probably learned that.
Prouder, probably.
Yeah.
Right?
you probably learned that his stubbornness is all a good thing.
That's what you could mention in the conclusion. Yeah, he was really proud when he started out, prouder by the end of the story. Right? Was the conflict intriguing or boring? If boring, how could it have been made stronger? Remember, this is a short story, so there's only so much you can do in a short story, so keep that in mind. Was the climax exciting or disappointing? If disappointing, how could it have been made stronger? Da, 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 da.
Sharks with lasers and arms.
Okay.
Flying sharks with lasers.
Was there a satisfying resolution, or when you get to the end, do you have to ask, and then what happened? Do you feel like you know what do they leave you hanging in any way? These are things to ask yourself.
No, it was actually
No.
a satisfying story for a 4-page story. Ending
Okay.
for a 4-page story.
Let's see, the theme analysis. What do you think? I did list some themes. What is the theme? You can talk about this. Is it clearly presented? Was it inspiring? Why or why not? Every well-written story or novel is an argument for the author's worldview. What does the author seem to believe about humanity, life, or some event? Do you agree with him or her? Well, we know later on Jack London became a real committed evolutionist, and that shines through in his later stories. But in this story, I think his idea about life is that life is exciting. There's all kinds of things out there to learn and do, right? So that seems to be his worldview at this point in his life. Is there a moral or lesson that the author communicates through the story? If so, is it an important lesson? Does the main character learn it?
No, I don't.
I don't know that he really learns anything, except he probably thinks, I can always work it out no matter what. That's probably what he learns.
He
So
probably learns that his head can get bigger without any side effects.
he has yet to learn that there are things in life that don't work out, right? So you can't always
Like-
bluff your way out of a situation. Literary devices, we don't really talk about those, but foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is when the author gives you an idea of what's coming. So I guess that restaurant scene is kind of foreshadowing about the
Culture.
next events, right? You find out that Alf doesn't have any money. You find out he's really resourceful. You find out he's bold. So it sort of foreshadows the rest of it. What quality of language did the author use, and did it work well for the story? Now, you can circle the word dialects here. A dialect is when the author tries to write the way it would have sounded if somebody said it in real life. So, for instance, you can kind of hear the dialect of the Japanese people.
You pay now. You pay now.
Yeah, no pay now, pay by and by. Right? So he does use dialects. And did we ever discuss what dress up technique he used repeatedly throughout the story?
Nope.
Did it jump out at anybody?
No.
You can go back and look for this. He uses I forgot to discuss it with y'all by the time we got through reading it. He uses so many LYs.
You knew it. I knew it.
You knew it, Claire?
Yes.
Oh, they're everywhere. Sometimes
Yes.
they use 2 or 3 in a sentence. You know, so he really liked LY adverbs, and he used them really well. He used a lot of very unusual ones. In fact, it's an interesting thing to go through and circle all his LYs and see the great variety that he has. He certainly doesn't resort to quickly over and over.
Yeah.
He has some really good ones. So that's something you could list down there. LY adverbs, a great variety. He uses them for sentence types. He uses them for sentence in the middle of the sentences as dress ups. He uses double ones. He might use some triple ones. I don't know. I know he at least has a couple of double ones. And then you're going to, at the closing, you're going to express your overall opinion of the book without saying I, my, or you. Some examples: enjoyable, inspiring, confusing, fascinating, dull, trite, exciting, gripping, unique, thought-provoking.
And we have to provide reasons should we pick, say, dull, right?
Yeah, well, hopefully you have just discussed that. For instance, you might say it wasn't a very exciting conflict and it could have been made better by whatever it is.
I
Adding
think the
laser
point
sharks.
is it kind of like a sort of sandwich where basically you start off saying what you thought about the story, then you for the
That's a good way you could do
conclusion, then you end also.
it. I like that concept, JT. A sandwich. That's a great idea. You don't have to start out saying what you think about it. So in that case, it would be like an open sandwich, right? Just one layer of bread. Okay. If you look at, I know I need to let y'all go. So look back on 144 and 145. Now these were written before I came up with my wonderful tool that I just went through with y'all. Y'all's can be better than this. Look at 145. This is pretty good, but I didn't have a good concept back then of how to help people think about stories. And now I do. So make sure you fill out that form and do some thinking before you try to write that conclusion. Okay. 145, George's story is very entertaining. Surprisingly, she is a writer for children, but people of all ages certainly enjoy this tale. Throughout the tale, Georgia makes the adventures very exciting and convincing. Sam Gribley, who is the main character, makes readers want to go camp out in the woods. I like that sentence. That's wonderful. Sam seems to be learning something new every day as he tries so many different ways to hunt for food and to prepare for winter. The theme of survival is powerfully presented. Inspiring others that meet him, Sam is industrious and resourceful. Although Sam Gribley is very fearful of what winter may bring, he perseveres. He is rewarded with the marvelous surprises because of his amazing endurance. Okay, if any of y'all have read My Side of the Mountain, you know how that fits in with the story. Yes, Jonathan, did you have a question?
Have y'all ever watched a TV show called Alone?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's kind of like that, but like.
Wow, that sounds great.
They go like over the psychological, how like being in solitude affects your brain.
Oh, that is interesting.
Oh, it's a documentary?
No, it's kind of like a reality TV show.
What
where
is
they
it called?
like Alone.
Oh.
Wow.
There
Okay.
is some cursing though, but it's mostly bleeped out.
Well, if you haven't read My Side of the Mountain and you like that sort of thing, you would enjoy reading My Side of the Mountain. It's really
Already read My Side of the Mountain
okay.
for school earlier.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, also it continues. I think it's a
Yeah, there's
trilogy.
3 books altogether. I think I read all 3 of them. Okay, y'all. So if you haven't finished with your classmates' paper,